All right, good morning. It's 10 o'clock. Let's get this show on the road. Thanks for taking some time out of your day to join us today. We've got the Crime Prevention Strategies for Your Business webinar. I'll start out with just a few quick housekeeping notes. As usual, this will be a slideshow and general conversation about the topic. During the presentation, if you want to submit questions, at the end we'll have a Q&A period so we can answer any of your questions. Just type them into the control panel under the questions tab, and then I'll be monitoring it throughout the presentation, and we'll wrap it up at the end with answers for you if we can. Today's presentation is live, but it's also being recorded, so after we're done, it can be viewed under the Risk Management and Education and Training tab for Society Insurance at societyinsurance.com. It'll also be on our YouTube channel where you can go back and look at this webinar or any of our previous webinars that we've done. There's a lot of different topics there to take a look at. Before we begin, just a quick little overview of Society Insurance in case you're not familiar. We're a regional insurance carrier that's based in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. We write business now in 9 states. We've got Wisconsin, Minnesota, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Tennessee, Colorado, Georgia, and down in Texas. We've been writing workers' comp coverage since 1915, but today we have property, general liability, commercial auto, cyber liability, and we mostly focus our knowledge and experience in the hospitality industry. So we provide insurance for select business niches with a focus on the small details that make the biggest difference. The presenters today are myself, Shelby Blundell. I'm a risk improvement rep for Society Insurance, been with them since 2010, and I'm working out of the Northern Illinois, Chicagoland area. We've also got Jarrett Wagner on the line with us.
Good morning, everybody. I have been with Society Insurance since 2008. Originally started in risk control covering the Illinois territory, and I have been covering the state of Colorado for a little over 2 years now.
And we've also got Charlie Thomas that's coming from Texas.
Yep. Hello, everyone. I'm a risk control representative. I've been with Society for a little over 2 years, and as Shelby mentioned, I am in Texas. I'm in the North Dallas area, and I service the DFW area.
We get to listen to him rub it in that he's got the warm weather when we're freezing in Chicago. And then we've also got Jim Hanna.
Morning, everyone. I am a risk improvement representative, and I've been with Society Insurance since 2023. I have over 40 years of experience in safety and risk control, working for a variety of different insurance carriers and insurance agents. With that, we can continue with the presentation.
All right. So as you can see, we're coming to you live from a lot of different areas remotely. So please forgive us if there are any technical glitches along the way. Here's a quick little disclaimer. Today's day and age, we got to have that. So let's take a look at that. Today, we've got 3 learning objectives. We're going to identify potential crime vulnerabilities, look at ways to develop effective security strategies, and then learn the best ways to respond to any kind of crime that you might experience. Turn it over to Jim. Actually, I'll turn it over to Charlie.
Yep, we'll be starting off with environmental design, and we'll start in with landscaping. Maintaining your landscaping can be a great way to help deter crime. It can make your business less appealing to criminals by increasing visibility around your property. In turn, this can also make it safer for pedestrians, customers, and employees traveling in the area. And you can consider how the following items on the slide impact your establishment's safety and vulnerability to risk. While the slide does mention keeping shrubs and trees trimmed to a maximum of 3 feet, you should also consider trimming your trees at a height of no less than 6 feet from the ground to the lowest foliage. Maintaining your landscaping can also help eliminate hiding places on the exterior of the restaurant, which will kind of lead us over into lighting. Lighting is also a great deterrent. You can illuminate those hiding places to further detract a would-be burglar, and make sure you have your exterior lighting on a timer or light sensor so your staff doesn't have to remember to turn off exterior lights. It's important to secure your trash containers. Securing your dumpster or trash receptacles in a locked enclosure will reduce the potential for people to dump their own waste or even use that area to hide in. And for roof access, we do recommend limiting access to your roof, especially on the exterior of the building. It should be secured. There's many forms of ladder guards that can help secure unwanted use of your ladder. And on the bottom of this slide, you can view some examples of a ladder guard and what they look like if you're not familiar. For physical security, we can start off with discussing burglar alarms. Your burglar alarm should undergo preventative maintenance at least once a year to make sure the entire system is working correctly. The system should also be tested regularly to make sure it functions in the event of a break-in. This can be done in a few ways, but I just recommend setting the alarm and opening a door or window to see if it trips it properly. We'd also advise posting indicators around the property like signs or stickers just to show that there is a burglar alarm in place. This is another deterrent that makes the property less attractive for a potential burglar, with them knowing that people in the area could be alerted to a break-in if there is a siren alarm and that police could come to intervene. The number of exterior door keys should be limited to employees who must have access. Keys should be marked do not duplicate, so employees won't be able to go get copies made at a local hardware store. But unfortunately, this does not mean the key cannot be copied using other means. So if an employee that previously had access to a building key is terminated, we'd advise changing out the locks on the building just to be safe. And for securing points of entry, we'd advise never to leave your back doors propped open because it may seem like an invitation for someone to walk in. Doors leading to trash containers or doors used by delivery drivers to drop off goods or supplies should have a buzzer to request re-entry. There should be a peephole to visually verify who is requesting re-entry, and you should also check access points to the building like doors and windows before you close each night just to make sure that they're locked and secured. For money management, we highly recommend securing your cash on hand by investing in a fireproof drop safe and to keep cash in registers to a minimum. Employees can be trained to make regular drops into the safe throughout the day to limit the total amount of readily available cash. And lastly, for this, the safe should be kept out of plain view and be secured in the building. If it came with any wheels, please remove those and have the safe bolted down to the floor so it's more secure. For controlling access to the safe, you should limit the number of employees that are given the combination just to help reduce the risk of theft. When an employee that had access to the safe leaves or is terminated, you should change the combination to the safe so they can't return to the building and use that familiar combination to steal money or give that combination to others. The combination for the safe should never be written anywhere in proximity to the safe, and once you close it, you should scramble the combination if you're using a dial. You should leave all registered drawers unlocked and open overnight once you have money secured in the safe, especially ones within view from outside of the building. You can tilt the registered drawers in the direction of a window to show there's no money inside of it. In the event of a break-in, leaving the registers open grants criminals instant access to the registers, which can help them prevent further property damage. Transferring money to the bank can make a business susceptible to theft, so to mitigate this risk, we advise making trips at varied times and utilizing alternate routes of travel to avoid a predictable pattern. If criminals uncover a schedule or routine, it makes it easier for them to attempt a heist on your business's hard-earned profits. And then finally, for cashless businesses, We recommend posting indicators, again, like signs or stickers around the property, just stating that the business is cashless. This will make it less attractive for a burglary attempt, knowing that there's either no cash or minimal cash on hand.
All right, that's good information. It's a lot of basic stuff, but it's stuff we don't think about every day. But it's good to have a review of all of those things. We'll do a quick poll question, get everybody thinking a little bit. We looked at a study, and before a break-in attempt, 83% of burglars, they looked for an alarm. And of those, what percent said that they would move on if they found signs of an alarm in place? Was it A, 20%, B, 40%, C, 60%, or D, 80%? Got a lot of answers coming in, kind of leaning toward C. Give it just another second here, let everybody get it in. Okay, we'll go ahead and close it out. Looks like most people are going with C. What's the correct answer on that one, Jim?
The answer is C, 60%.
All right, correct.
So we're asking the question, why does my business need video surveillance? Well, first of all, it's cost-effective deterrent to crime, and it provides property protection for areas that aren't readily visible. You can't see everything all at once, but you can record everything all at once. The area around the cash register is a critical location, and surveillance recordings can be vital for proving or disproving any events in the restaurant. If possible, provide a spot monitor at the entrance, just as a reminder, so customers are aware that surveillance is in use. Provide signs to notify people of the video surveillance, and include on the notification sign that the surveillance cameras are not monitored by a live human, because liability can arise if a customer experiences a violent encounter and they mistakenly assumed that a live human would immediately respond. Consider using hidden surveillance cameras to observe unacceptable behaviors. Also use a wireless surveillance camera that can be easily moved to various hidden locations. One of the main reasons to use surveillance is to protect the restaurant property against vandalism and malicious mischief, including broken windows, damage to exterior dining furniture, graffiti, and theft. Remember that surveillance cameras are also expensive property, and they should be protected by installing them out of reach. Use of hidden surveillance cameras in remote areas where coverage may be obscured, including the dumpster areas, delivery areas, and around storage sheds. Surveillance video can be critical for use as evidence. Recordings can prove accounts of an event or disprove false statements. Locations where slip, trip, and fall incidents are common can be anticipated and provided with surveillance. Look at bathroom access hallways, self-service drink stations, stairways, entrances. Also, employee workstations should be covered, including areas around the refrigeration equipment, the storage rooms, and food transfer points. Remember to always back up your surveillance videos immediately upon an incident, and train all your management staff in the procedures for backing up video recordings. Provide surveillance cameras to record the customers as they enter and leave. The area around the cash register should include coverage of the cash drawer and the customer at the same time. So 2 cameras might be necessary at this critical point. The back door should have wide-angle surveillance coverage. Be aware of any areas where surveillance has been blocked. Provide surveillance in parking lots with wide angles to obtain the greatest possible area of coverage. Remember, video recordings can be zoomed in and out, so the wider the angle at the start, the better. Employee dishonesty can be detected by noticing unusual behaviors, such as multiple trips to a personal vehicle or spending long periods of time in a dead spot with no surveillance coverage. So another important aspect of your security at your restaurant is robbery. A robbery at your restaurant is a dangerous event that must be anticipated. Planning and training are the critical elements to prepare for robberies. The safety of employees and customers is far more important than any financial loss that may occur. Employees must be trained to never confront or show any belligerence to the robber. Train the employees to try to remain calm, avoid yelling or loud speech. The employees should keep their hands visible at all times. Do not stare at the robber, make any sudden movements, or portray any type of hostility. You want to train the employees to comply with any demands made by the robber and provide concise answers without volunteering any information. Opening time and closing times are periods of extreme vulnerability because there are fewer employees and customers for the robber to control. Train your employees to work in pairs with one employee serving as an observer that can summon help. Trips to the banks for deposits should be made at varied times, and train your employees to be especially aware of suspicious individual and call the police immediately as soon as suspicious individuals' behavior are identified. Don't worry about making a mistake. Apologies are easier than regrets. Periodically review all cash handling procedures, including limiting the cash in the register, making cash drops into the non-accessible safe, and checking video surveillance camera angles. After the robber leaves, do not disturb anything so that fingerprints can be obtained. Notify the police immediately and back up surveillance video.
All right, thanks, Jim. It's amazing how many these small businesses, small restaurants and bars don't think that they're a target, but it just seems like on the news lately every day, it's the small little mom and pop shops that are getting broken into and robbed for $300 or $400. So it's good for everybody to stay vigilant and train. Another quick question: in the United States, what were the reported total losses attributed to credit card fraud in 2023? Is it A, 58 million, B, 79 million, C, 143 million, or D, 246 million? Doesn't matter which one it is, those are all staggering numbers. We've got about 75% of people have chimed in on it. Give it just a second here. Okay. So it looks like most people are going with D, 246 million. What's the answer on that one, Jarrett?
And most people would be correct. The answer is $246 million in 2023 alone. So I promise we're not going to dive too deep into cyber fraud today. We could probably dedicate an entire presentation on that topic alone, but we did think it would be beneficial to highlight some growing trends during today's session. Identity thefts have been on the rise over the past few years, and they show no signs of slowing down. For our purposes today, when we refer to identity theft, it could be as simple as illegally obtaining someone's credit card number and using it for unauthorized purchases. According to Consumer Protection Bureaus, over 1 million people reported being the victim of identity theft in 2023 alone, with credit card fraud routinely cited as the #1 source of identity theft. The best way to prevent your business from being a victim of identity theft is to educate your staff on how to best identify these potential scenarios. One of these, I'm sure anybody in the corporate world who has had to do any sort of training online, your IT department has given you some phishing scams to look into. When a supposedly reputable person or company sends a fraudulent email or text and contains links to malware or other types of malicious software, generally the scammer will try to entice the recipient to click on a link so they can gain access to sensitive information, including credit card numbers or bank accounts. One of the easiest ways to spot a phishing scam is if someone requests personal information from you over the phone or via email text. For instance, the scammer may present themselves as a bank representative and ask you to confirm a credit card number or account number they have with the bank. Instruct your staff to never give out sensitive info over the phone. If the sender is asking for detailed information and it smells fishy, examine it more closely and get in touch with that organization's support line to confirm it really is them. The other major type of fraud that we have been seeing lately is card not present fraud. This occurs when we have transactions that are conducted online or over the phone, which does make it easier for scammers to use at restaurants, convenience stores. It's much harder to prevent than card present fraud because the merchant cannot personally examine the credit card. They cannot tell if there's any sort of fraud on the card or even verify if the customer's ID matches with that name on the card. Alert your staff to some of these possible red flags when customers are attempting to purchase items online or over the phone. Some of these can include any orders that fail address verifications. If you get international orders from countries you don't market to, multiple purchases from the same cardholder in a day, multiple purchases from the same card but to different shipping and or billing addresses, or multiple purchases from different cards but shipped to the same address. If you suspect that you may be a victim of credit card fraud, very easy steps that you can and should take. You should immediately report the suspected fraud to your credit card processing organization or your bank. The FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, also has a portal on their website dedicated to various potential frauds. Be sure to file with them if you suspect foul play so they could keep track, and hopefully we could try to prevent some of these in the future. Always remember to file a report with your local police department so there is a record of the alleged fraud. This could be helpful to investigators if they are already pursuing a suspect, or could stop the perpetrator from committing some of these identical crimes in the future. Immediately begin to reset all your passwords, your PINs, and while this may elicit some groans in the audience, you should always implement two-factor authentication on your accounts whenever possible. The very last topic we are going to spend some time discussing today can be a rather sensitive subject and is never one you really want to consider that can happen at your business. Sadly, employee dishonesty is the most common criminal event which occurs in the restaurant industry. Easy because employees have the greatest opportunity to steal because they have access to assets and they are familiar with how the operation of the business works. Many business owners place too much trust in these individuals responsible for cash and inventory. One of the most common methods of employee theft of cash is by manipulating sales transactions. Inventory and deliveries should be monitored to ensure the proper stock is received on hand and accounted for. Higher value inventory like liquor should be locked in a secured area to prevent theft. Other means of employee theft can include misusing coupons, gift certificates, or providing complimentary passes, and like we talked about earlier, stealing credit card information. These are some potential signs you may want to start to notice in the event of an employee is stealing. You may notice some lifestyle changes like expensive cars, jewelry, some significant personal debt and credit problems they may be mentioning. If they have any behavioral changes, maybe it could be an indication of drugs, alcohol, gambling addiction, or your fear of losing their job. Refusal to take vacation or sick leave, while that may seem like the person is trying to help you. Sometimes that can be an indication that they are manipulating some of the items behind the scenes and they don't want you to see them. And so they'll just refuse to take any vacation. Also, if you see any lower deposit amounts than expected on busier days. So you can mitigate the risk of employee fraud, restaurant fraud through training and internal controls. Teach your staff and your managers the impact fraud can have on a restaurant, what constitutes fraud, and the warning signs of fraudulent activity, and how to report suspicious behavior. You should institute an anonymous reporting system for employees, vendors, and even customers to report any suspected or actual violations. Craft and implement anti-retaliation policies that actively encourage employees to report suspicious activity. You don't want them to be afraid that they are going to lose their job or that they are going to upset somebody if they bring an item to your attention. So few things, the separation of duties. If you can make sure more than 2 employees are responsible for recording and processing transactions. Access controls. So if you can restrict access to physical and financial assets, including online financial information such as bank accounts and credit card transactions, and you only limit those to authorized employees. Speaking of, you should develop and implement policies to determine how financial transactions are initiated, authorized, recorded, and reviewed. You should have policies that establish and communicate strict policies for accessing company assets, such as business inventory or accounts. Reduce exposure to cash. So if you monitor cash transactions closely and you make sure to request receipts for all transactions. Audits are a great way if you institute regularly scheduled and occasional random audits by a qualified financial professional, such as a CPA that can alert you to potential shortcomings in the accounts. And lastly, background checks. If you conduct extensive background checks on those who have access to company funds, you can reduce who you have accessing some of those sensitive information. Employee fraud and dishonesty takes a huge toll on restaurants and bars. Doesn't matter how large the bar or restaurant is. Usually it accounts for about 5% of all profits that you may be losing. By being able to identify some of these potential red flags, making the topic part of employee training, and implementing checks and balances, you should be able to take action to reduce the business damaging effects of employee dishonesty.
All right. Thanks, Jarrett. You were talking about employee background checks, and that's one of the things on our handouts here. That we have several handouts attached. One of them is for Verisk. That's a company that does motor vehicle record checks and also nationwide background checks. It's a company that we've partnered up with that's really provided a good price point for the mom and pop bars and restaurants. So it's not a really costly thing, but it's something good to know if you got people handling your cash and deposits and stuff. So there's a handout on that that's attached that you could print off, or you can find it on societyinsurance.com under the risk control tab. We've also done a crime prevention checklist that was just a quick little audit checklist. You could print it off, and it's a real handy thing. Like you can have a manager or one of your team members go around once a month and just kind of do a quick checklist on there and see if you've hit all the things you should. Make sure you're got an environmentally secure place, and it brings up a lot of little things that you won't think about when you're just walking around. So we've also got all of our blogs. We've done blogs on all different topics, anything risk control related. So now we'll go through and see if we have any questions. I've gotten a couple come in. Jim, I think this one would go with your topic best. She's asking if 30 days is the best amount of time to store video surveillance. What would you say on that?
Well, of course, you want to have the video surveillance recorded for as long as possible. 30 days is what's considered to be an optimal time period. But with the new online recording, some of them are really long. You can have years retained. I guess it's a trade-off between what's affordable and what's available. But generally, 30 days is a pretty good goal to set for optimum time period.
Okay. And then another one, they were referring to Charlie's section, said that you if they understood correctly, you recommended leaving the cash register open. And I think they're just looking for a little clarification on that.
Yeah, so maybe didn't dive as far deep into it as I should have. I know I touched on leaving registers open that are in, view of a window or from the outside of the building. But even if that's not the case, we just advise leaving them open once money is secured in the safe overnight. And the reason we ask you to do that is because in the event of a break-in, if a criminal gets to the registers and it's open, they have access to it, and they see nothing is inside of it, they'll probably move on to something else or potentially leave and look for a new target versus damaging your property, your register, your point of sale system, just to find the same result, that there's nothing in there. So that's why we ask you to leave them open overnight.
Yeah, I've had a bunch of them in the past that they tell me that they only had $100 in petty cash in the register, but they lost a $1,500 computer in the process because they were trying to thinking they were going to get more. I've got one additional. Says, I have clients say that the credit card company will protect them if the credit card information is stolen. Is this true? That's something that I'm quite sure our legal counsel would advise us probably not to get into, and it'd probably be best for you to deal with your credit card company, because I'm sure each one of them is different, and your company's legal counsel to answer that question. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. Hope it's had some good information provided for you. Don't forget to check out societyinsurance.com for risk management, and there's a whole lot of stuff there that can help you guys in this area in a whole bunch of different ways. Hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Thank you very much.